South Florida Jaguar dealer.
There's this guy shooting people out there.
7 sniper attacks, all presumably part of a pattern.
Are you seriously comparing these shootings to some kind of fad?
You have an epidemic of copycat snipers.
How do you stop a murder?
Number 8 was shot getting out of his car.
It's moving faster than we can even stop it.
When the killers keep multiplying.
Charlie, get down!
Numbers, the first of 5 new episodes, CBS tonight.
And remember, when you see news happening, give us a call.
In either Miami-Dade or Broward, 866-658-8477.
And that's your 6 o'clock news. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock for CBS 4 News Tonight. It is time now for the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.
Good evening. I'm John Roberts. The police crack a murder mystery after a controversial DNA dragnet. A dragnet, it now turns out, was completely unnecessary. We'll begin there tonight. Then we'll have these stories.
The Dow does a nosedive. I'm Anthony Mason. Is the stock slump signaling an economic slowdown?
Congress is about to go nuclear. I'm Gloria Borger, and I'll tell you why.
Hundreds of America's best students get rejected by the best schools. Why? I'm Wyatt Andrews with the answer.
They locked them up and threw away the keys. The lessons of the 13th century return. I'm Alan Pizzi in Rome.
This is the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.
And Bob is off tonight. The stabbing death of a 48-year-old woman on Cape Cod had the police there so baffled they decided to take an unusual action, one that outraged civil liberties groups all across the country. The police began taking DNA samples from every man in town. Now they say they have their man, a man whose DNA they already had long before the much criticized dragnet. Sharon Alfonsi has the story.
Did you kill her?
Did you kill Krista?
Christopher McGowan wasn't talking today, but investigators say the 33-year-old garbage man's DNA proves he raped and killed fashion writer Krista Worthington inside her Cape Cod home 3 years ago. Her unharmed 2-year-old daughter Ava was found clinging to her mother's body. The case shocked this quiet town, and the way police tried to solve it is stirring up privacy concerns well beyond its scenic coast.
They were so busy trying to get new suspects that they didn't fully process the suspects and the evidence they already had. That was a mistake.
This winter, using a portable kit like this, Cape investigators tried to get DNA samples from every man in town. Worthington's family pleaded with neighbors to put aside their privacy concerns.
This is in order to solve a very heinous, horrible crime that left a little girl without her mother.
But the DNA sample police needed to solve the crime they already had. More than a year ago, well before the DNA sweep, investigators took a DNA sample from McGowan, but the state crime lab was so backed up, it just got around to testing the sample.
The history of these DNA sweeps is that they don't produce useful information.
Researchers looked at 18 known DNA sweeps over the last 15 years. The result? An offender was only found in one of the cases. The study concluded that sweeps are, quote, unproductive.
The American public has this idea that DNA is the be-all and end-all of criminal investigation. It's not.
Embarrassingly for investigators, McGowan was a suspect early on because he picked up trash at the victim's home and because he had a lengthy criminal record.
Ultimately, criminal investigations are going to be driven by good, solid police work, by the Joe Friday approach as opposed to the CSI approach.
But prosecutors say that's a lot harder than it sounds. The juries demand DNA evidence. They see it on TV and they want it at trial. John?
So what's going to happen, Sharon, with all of this other DNA that they've collected? Is that going to go into some kind of database for the next time?
Well, the district attorney collected 175 different samples and he has promised that it's all going to be destroyed, but it hasn't happened yet.
All right, Sharon Alfonsi, thanks very much. DNA is becoming a bigger and bigger part of crime solving, but as this case clearly demonstrates, DNA evidence doesn't do much good unless there's someone there to process it. That's a problem for police all over America, as CBS News correspondent Jim Stewart reports.
Police in the Cape Cod case aren't the only ones drowning in a sea of untested DNA evidence. Virtually every prosecutor in the country today has a backlog of bloody clothing, medical swabs, or body fluids to check out. And any one of them could be the key to making an arrest or freeing the innocent. The Attorney General reports that 540,000 criminal cases, including 52,000 murders and 169,000 sex crimes, had biological evidence awaiting DNA testing last year. Even in Virginia, with the most up-to-date DNA facilities in criminal database, warehouses are stacked to the ceiling with cases awaiting testing. Investigators today were also calling the Cape Cod case another example of how random DNA testing for a suspect almost never works. Police in Baton Rouge tested over 1,200 white men looking for a serial murderer in 2002 before finally arresting an African-American male. In Miami, 2,300 innocent men gave samples in another multiple murder case before the eventual suspect was turned in by a potential victim. The problem is that DNA testing can take time, and it certainly can take money. Some tests run up to $10,000, and many small towns, like the one in the Cape Cod case, simply don't have it. Jim Stewart, CBS News, Washington.
This was an especially ugly day in an especially ugly week in a not at all pretty year for Wall Street. The Dow plunged nearly 200 points today, its biggest loss of the year. The Nasdaq fell 38. It was the worst week for the Dow in 2 years. Both indexes are in negative territory for 2005. Our CBS News business correspondent Anthony Mason is with us now. And Anthony, what is spooking the markets?
An economic slowdown, John. That's what's spooking the markets. The Dow has now had 3 straight triple-digit losses. That's 420 points in just 3 days. Among the reasons, oil prices, automobiles, interest rates. Interest rates, of course, are on the rise. Automobile sales have been slowing down, and of course it now costs you $30 just to fill up your car. As one Wall Street,
if you've got a small car.
Right, if you've got a small car. As one Wall Street trader said to me today, anyone who thinks higher gas prices mean people are not going to spend less money is smoking something. Less spending means the economy has to slow down.
So people at home right now are saying economic slowdown. How slow is it going to go? Are we headed for another recession?
No, the R word. That's not going to happen. But it is now clear. Oil prices are backing off. That's going to take up some of the pressure off. But it does now appear the growth is not going to be nearly as strong as we thought it was going to be this year. That's why stocks have been in a big slump. That's why 3 out of 4 stocks today actually went down.
This a correction, or do you think a trend?
Correction, I think, is the correct word.
Good. Anthony, thanks very much. A big battle is coming in the Senate over President Bush's judicial nominations and the use of the filibuster to try to stop them. And now religion is becoming a part of that fight. CBS News correspondent Gloria Borger joins us now from Capitol Hill. Gloria?
John, the Senate is headed towards a showdown over the so-called nuclear option. That's a plan that's backed by the White House that would stop the Democrats from filibustering judicial nominees.
In other words, I've got a piece to speak.
Americans first saw a Senate filibuster, albeit a Hollywood one, in 1939. It's a Senate tradition that allows the minority to block anything that does not get 60 votes. In the case of judges, Republican leaders charge that the Democrats are deliberately using the filibuster to keep conservative judicial nominees from even getting a Senate vote.
Let people vote yes or no, but to give advice and consent, which is our constitutional responsibility.
Democrats, who are the minority, see it as their constitutional responsibility to provide checks and balances.
They want it all. They want every nominee. And sadly, they are about to assault this Constitution.
But the fight has expanded way beyond the Senate. After Congress forced the courts to intervene in the Terry Schiavo case last month, the question of just who sits on the bench has become issue number 1 for social conservatives.
Now you have the judicial branch acting with virtually no accountability, and clearly if there is an 800-pound gorilla that's throwing around its weight, it's not the legislative branch nor the executive branch. It's wrapped in a black robe.
Perkins Group is working with Senate leaders to mobilize the faithful to push for an end to the filibuster. In this case, Democrats say mixing faith and politics is dangerous.
To inject this into politics, to say, I know that I am right and God tells me I'm right and he tells me that your whole party, your whole group is wrong, that's not what America's all about.
John, this could come to a head as early as next week. Right now, Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist is out there trolling for votes. If he does get them, the Democrats are threatening to shut this place down.
You would think, Gloria, that if he is this close to exercising the nuclear option, that he'd have the other 54 senators in line.
He doesn't, John. There are lots of traditionalists in the Senate. One of them is John McCain, Republican of Arizona. He says that he's been around long enough to remember when he was in the minority. And he says this could boomerang on the Republicans if that ever happens again, John.
One way or another, it's going to be a big battle. Gloria Borger, thanks very much. This was another violent day in Iraq. A series of bombings in and near Baghdad killed or wounded dozens of people. One car bomb exploded near a U.S. military convoy in a western district of the capital. At least 6 people were injured, including 1 American soldier. Most of today's attacks were claimed by the group known as Al-Qaeda in Iraq. In Paris, an early morning hotel fire killed at least 20 people, more than half of them children, and injured more than 50. Most of the victims were from Africa. Riding a Russian rocket, an American, a Russian, and an Italian are headed for the International Space Station. Next month, they hope to welcome the first space shuttle crew since the Columbia tragedy 2 years ago. Coming up next, what do a 10-year-old and an ex-prison guard know about Social Security reform? Plenty, say Republicans and Democrats. That's tonight's Inside Story. But first, Bob Schieffer with this note.
CBS News honors fallen heroes Daryl Schumann. His parents were Air Force. He joined the Marines. He used to say Air Force by birth, Marine by choice, American by the grace of God. Schumann was a champion shooter and hoped to become a computer animator. He died in a helicopter crash. In his last letter from Iraq, he said, "I wish America could see how awesome a job we're doing."
Hello? Remember me? I'm Digger, the tomato fight. You're nailing